Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Real Podcast with Andile. Without wasting any further time, guys, today we have a special guest. I've been meaning to have a conversation with our guest today for quite a long time, but he's a very very busy man. Without wasting any time again, his name is Mandla Dube. Mandla Kai said Dube, but I will just let him introduce himself better than you know. So, Pramandla Kunjan Puti.
Good morning, Ngiyaphila kunjani?
I'm good, but thank you so much for
Excellent.
joining us today.
No problem.
Thanks for opening up your time, just inviting us in this beautiful place.
Sure.
We just appreciate that. Like, if you can just, like, for those who don't know you, I'm sure most of in the industry know you, but just for those who don't know you, because we've got like new followers and new, listeners in our podcast. Like those who don't know, if you can just give them like just a little bit about yourself. Who is Mandla?
Well, it's kind of rude for me to introduce myself. This is who I am. But
I know. Trust me, I know.
but my name is Mandla Dube.
Yes.
I'm a filmmaker,
Yes.
and I'm happy to be here.
Okay.
Cool.
Yes. So, but Mandla, there's so much that I want us to talk about, but because of I feel like we have like such a limited time.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Like I said, we can do this again tomorrow, Wednesday, however
Sure.
long much time you have.
Yes.
But I'm super excited to be talking to you, and we've been wanting to do this for a while,
Exactly.
and finally we have the time,
Yes.
and it's yeah.
Yeah, sure. So, one of the things that I wanted to, talk to you about, like, I remember the first time I watched one of your films, Kalushi. I didn't know that it was directed by you.
Right.
I watched it. Alex, can you
It's
check
okay.
it
It's
out?
okay. Keep going.
Okay,
Keep
cool.
going.
So,
Keep going. I know how to do this. Go
okay.
ahead.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, I sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay, cool. So basically, the first time I watched Kalushi, I didn't know that it was directed by you. But all I know it was that it was well directed, well written, well directed, and the cast was on top. Everything was just on top. But I didn't know,
Thank you.
I saw it was Mandla, but I didn't know, the Mandla at that time. And one thing that was on my mind was I would love to sit down with this person just to get to know their mind,
Sure.
in terms of when they're thinking about stuff like that. And then when I watch some other stuff and like Silverton Siege, because Silverton Siege, I thought it was directed by, when I first saw I thought it was done by an American director, one of those directors who usually come in our country and do our stories and stuff like that.
Sure.
But when I dig deep, I saw that this was this Mandla, and knowing, and then when I went back and to check, Mandla Dube was on Jiva, when I was on Jiva, working with the dancers and stuff like that. But COVID happened and then I left. But Mandla came in, and then I realized this is the same Mandla, So I realized that most of the stuff that you do, has to do with history.
Sure.
Just to
Heritage.
do with
Yeah.
the background, with the background of our country,
Sure.
with the past of our country, Do you what's your thought process when you come up with those ideas? Is that like your niche of in terms of directing, or
Yeah. So I'm a student of obviously cinema,
yeah,
but I'm also a student of African history.
yeah,
I majored in radio, TV, and film, and in particular cinematography
yeah.
when I was at Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia, and then I minored in African history, and that I was very intentional in saying that that will inform the content of the films I will make in the future. And I was about, I don't know, 20, 20 years old,
Yes.
18, 20 years old when I made that decision.
Wow.
And I had met a gentleman by the name of Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who was there. They were there every year they conducted, or every 2 years, they had the Association of Classical African Civilizations. And I had an honor of being able to be one of the students to go there. I met Dr. Jeffries, Dr. Joseph Ben Yochanan, and many other historians
Sure.
of African history. So that's when I said to myself, "Wow, this is what I'm gonna do." And at the
Yes.
time, the big guy that we were all looking up to was Spike Lee, and he conscientized a lot of us as filmmakers, and coming and studying in Atlanta as well. Atlanta is a big mecca of African minds studying in one place. It's the only place on planet Earth
Yes.
where you have historically black colleges having black students, who are studying whatever
Yes, yes.
discipline. You've got Morehouse, Clark Atlanta University, Spelman, Morris Brown. Obviously, you've got Georgia State, Georgia Tech, and all that. But it's the only place on planet Earth where black people are studying at a you know per square meter. You
Wow,
have more black students than anywhere else.
that's
So
great.
for me, it was like, wow,
Yeah,
I'm gonna make my mark as well. I'm gonna study here. I'm gonna make sure that I do well. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's great. No, now
So that's
then.
that's that's what informed the likes of Kalushi, Solomon Mahlangu stories, Silverton Siege, and it's a trilogy, right? So these stories are called the Legends of Freedom, and I came up with the whole concept when I was lecturing at Wits University. And while at Verts, I was introduced to Solomon Mahlangu's family, and I remember being 10 years old, seeing the Silverton siege, on Sunday Times, and it traumatized me.
Oh, wow.
And then the Rivonia trial, I was very close to some of the Rivonia trialists at the time. I was interviewing, Nelson Mandela, obviously, Dennis Goldberg, Andrew Mlangeni, and Ahmed Kathrada. Those were the only four living Rivonia trialists. So I
Yes.
got to know them, and this came as I was doing research to do Kalushi Solomon Mahlangu's story. So, I went ahead. I mean, it's a whole thing about curatorship, right?
Sure.
So as a filmmaker, I also curate these narratives, and so there is a Solomon Mahlangu stamp. There is a Rivonia Trialist stamp. I'm working on trying on getting the Silverton Siege Trio stamps. And then
Wow.
their names are also at the Freedom Park Wall of Fame. So it's about curatorship, and I think that's another thing I would like to offer. As filmmakers, we need to see ourselves as curators
Yes, yes.
as opposed to just I'm a
Exactly.
director, or I'm a
Yes.
cinematographer, or you're curating, and then also archives became very key
Yes, the thing,
because I
yes.
had to I had to go to the archives of those stories. So I came up with this whole Legends of Freedom series, and I did an exhibition with the Nelson Mandela Foundation as my partner, and obviously the Post Office, South African Post Office,
Oh, wow.
and the National Department of Arts and Culture's Archives
Yeah.
Division.
Wow.
And so I immersed myself in that world of these heroes or these freedom fighters,
Yeah.
and yeah. So I interviewed. I did a lot of research. Interviewed a lot of the people that they interacted with. So I was no longer telling a story. I was living inside these bodies, and
Wow, that's
I was part one with them. You know what I mean?
yes.
And then I was very intentional in wanting to make sure that their stories are told properly. I visited their grave sites and I spoke to the families, and there were times where I would hear their voices
Really?
talking to me. Oh yeah, oh, yeah. So there's a whole approach, ethos that I went after to do that. I call it voodoo cinema.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now it makes sense because I remember I was watching Silverton Siege with my daughter,
Oh, nice.
and
Well
and
done.
yeah, I remember at some point she was crying. Towards the end, she was crying, and she was like, "Well, like I'm looking at her,
Mhm.
and she's 12 year old. She's like, it's almost like I'm there myself in
Wow.
that bank,
Wow.
and I'm like,
Mm.
that's how filmmaking should be. You know what I
Mm.
mean? You should be watching, a film. Forget that forget that there's a camera
Sure.
behind those
Sure.
people and feel like this is reality. And
Sure.
that's what I've noticed about your films.
Right.
It's that they're very intentionally.
Of course. Of
They're
course.
very, very intentional. It's
Uh-huh.
not just a story that has been translated into a script and
Sure.
then a film. It's intentionally and it's well
Mhm.
thought of and it's well researched.
Yeah.
That's what so if you can just like in terms of I realized that you using similarly the same crew on like the main guy on Kalushi and the main guy
Oh, the same actor.
on the
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Well, I think, as I said earlier on, it's curatorship,
yes,
right? And when you're curating something, the audience wants to be able to see an affinity
Yes.
and consistency in the material that they are watching so that they can be able to have resonance with it,
Yes.
right? So it's about that. I was very intentional in saying that Solomon Mahlangu was going to be played by
Mm.
Tabora Metsi, and we transformed him. He doesn't look anything like the guy you saw in
Yes.
Kalushi. You know, it's like a different
Different.
guy
Exactly.
in Silverton Siege, and he's also going to be in the Rivonia trial. It's part of curating.
Got you.
So I don't know when we're going to do the Rivonia trial. Don't ask me, but it's part of curating. It's
Yes.
just to make sure and just do yourself a huge favor one of these days. Go to the museum
Yeah.
and then you look at the works of the particular artist. There's a particular signature that they have
Yes.
about the work that they do, and then you'll pick it up. Like I was in Amsterdam and I went to the Van Gogh Museum, and you could see that this guy is intentional about being able to put certain colors in a particular way
Mm.
from painting to painting. You
Yes.
know, he's so it's that kind of a approach to say,
Yes.
you know, as an artist, you want to make sure that your work stands out. Yes, it's different here and there, but it
Yeah.
stands out and there's an affinity with the work. So the Legends of Freedom has a common character,
Yeah.
and that common character is the city of Pretoria, right?
Mm.
And then within that city of Pretoria, there's a place called the Palace of Justice,
Mm.
Church Square, right?
Yes.
Or Church Square, let me say, right?
Yeah.
Where there's the Palace of Justice. And in Kalushi, the story of Solomon Mahlangu, we shot it at Church Square in
Yes.
the city of Pretoria, and the trial takes place inside the Palace of Justice, right?
Yeah.
Silverton Siege is filmed at Church Square and inside a bank
Mm.
with the Paul Kruger Museum, with the Paul Kruger statue there,
Yes.
and across from the Palace of Justice where we did uh, Kalushi.
Yes.
The Rivonia trial will take place at Church Square, and then that trial where Nelson Mandela, Ahmed Katrada,
Yes.
Andrew
Yes.
Mlangeni, Dennis Goldberg, Elias Mutsoaledi were in will take place at the Palace of Justice in Church Square.
Wow.
So it's about curating a
Yes.
space.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's and then one of the concepts that one has been advocating for is called cinematourism. How do we use cinema to complement tourism in municipalities, right?
Mm.
So as filmmakers, like you're in Cape Town, we're shooting in Cape Town and all this particular hotel and all of that. You're adding value to this particular hotel.
Yes.
They need to be able to complement you.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
With
got
what
you.
you're doing.
Yes. Yes.
When you make a film the next time, you can come to them and ask for a discount to say, I interviewed at your place. It's
Exactly.
going to be on my podcast. My podcast, there's so many people.
Mm.
I want to talk to you guys about being able to help me when I make films to put some of the actors at your hotel, but at a discounted rate.
Got you.
So it adds value to you. So
Yes.
it's bartering. One of the
Yes.
oldest um, systems that Africans have been practicing for ancient of times.
Mm.
So but again, the whole thing of being intentional with the look, with aesthetics,
Yes.
and so forth. Yeah.
Got you. Got you. So, as I was saying that, on all of your films, as I realized one thing, each and every single thing, like, is being intentional. Like, you can tell that each and every single shot that you take, it's not just any shot. It's a
Oh
moment.
yeah.
It's
So
a moment.
you were saying about your daughter, yeah.
Yes.
So point of view is very important for me. My
Yeah.
background is cinematography. So I started as a cinematographer,
Yeah.
and then I transitioned to directing.
Mm.
So while I was a cinematographer, I always listened to what the director wanted, and I was always make. And our job as as cinematographers is to support what the director's vision is,
Exactly. Yes.
and that vision most of the time will be a point of view of a particular character that we are following.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean that's stuff that I learned at film school. To say point of view is very key, and in Silverton Siege and in Kalushi,
Yes.
it's a point of view of particular characters. So what's happening to them? How do they emotionally react to what's happening to them?
Mm,
How do they respond to what's happening to them emotionally?
mm,
And what do we see that they see, right?
mm,
And how do they react to what they're seeing? And what does it do to transform them as characters as the plot unfolds? And ultimately, do they get what they want? Do they not get what they want? Or what happens?
mm.
Why can't they get what they want? And what is it that they want?
Oh,
And why do they want that?
wow.
So, as audience members, as a storyteller, as a
Yeah.
cinematographer, as a director, that is our job. So that has to go from scene to scene to scene to scene.
Mm,
And as a cinematographer, the choice of lenses that say, I don't just put a camera here and say, it's going to be a 50. No, 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 no. Or it's going to be a 75 millimeter, or it's going to be a 21 millimeter, or it's going to be a 40 millimeter, or it's going to be an 85 millimeter, or it's going to be a 135. I've got
yes.
to make it. I've got to earn that as a storyteller, so that the audience are not jarred by what they see.
Wow.
I've got to be able to know that at this point, no, 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 no. I don't want to go into wide lens.
Mm,
I'm gonna stay so it's part of aesthetics, right?
sure, sure.
In isiZulu we call it isgxiviso. What is the stamp of that
Yeah.
filmmaker? What is it that you're saying, right?
Yes, yes,
And I mean, I call it voodoo cinema, and
yes.
it's about how do I dig deep into my psyche, into my soul, to be able to help the audience come along with this journey,
Mm,
and they don't sit there and go, ah, no, I'm gonna change the channel. This person doesn't know what the hell they're doing,
exactly.
right? So I've got
Exactly.
to make sure that the standards of what I'm delivering are very high,
Yeah.
and I'm respectful of my audience, so that they can be able to follow this journey that I have. Because it's 2 hours is a lot of time. Two, three
Exactly.
hours, however long the movie is. 2, 3 hours is a lot of time to go and take people and just toss them around
Mm,
and not have a payoff, of giving them a quality story.
mm,
And so I'm very respectful of an audience.
yes.
So I've got to make sure that's why I don't compromise development of a project.
Mm, mm,
I
mm, mm.
don't compromise development. I don't compromise prep. I don't compromise prepping my actors to prepare for their characters. I don't compromise anything that has to do with the vision of the story being the best.
Sure.
I don't compromise that at all. You can ask the producers I've worked with; they'll tell you.
Yeah. No, 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 I believe you.
So I always want to have characters that are layered, down to the detail of what they have in their pocket that you as the audience member do not see. What is in their pocket?
Mm,
Are there little breadcrumbs? Is there stones? Is there coins in there? What do they hold? You know what I mean?
yes.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So just a quick question. Like when you developing your story,
Mhm.
um, before you, do you have an idea of where you want the story to be at the end before you even develop it, or that happens like once you're done with the filming? Like in terms of if you wanted to play on Netflix, you wanted to play like on Disney or maybe on Showmax, like
Whoever, yeah.
yeah.
I think it happens organically. I think the story has to guide you.
Mm,
The characters in the story have to guide you to where they live.
yeah.
Is it a story that's going to stay that wants a big cinema?
Yeah.
Is it a story that's going to live on a streaming platform? Is it a story that's going to be? Some stories are not even meant to, excuse me, some stories are not necessarily meant to be filmed. Some stories may be theater.
That's true.
Some stories may be 1 minute video clip from your phone. There's a story there,
Yeah.
One of our mentors, Ernest Dickerson, says that whatever you do, develop your eye. Whether you're using your phone, if you don't have a phone, take your
Mm-hmm.
fingers, make a circle like that, look through that. If you want it to be a wider lens, do that. If you want it to be a tighter lens, do that. But whatever you do, develop your eye. Whatever you
Wow.
do, develop your eye. Whatever you do, develop your eye as a
I
cinematographer
love that.
and as a director. You gotta develop your eye. And then your eye will start getting used. And
Mm.
actually, what you're developing is not your eye, it's your brain, it's your mind.
Yes,
To
yes.
say, hey, mind, how do we see this world? Is this world full of saturation? Is it desaturated? Is it wide? Is it tight?
Mm-hmm.
Is it, you know what I mean?
Yes.
What are we denying the audience? What are we letting the audience see? Why are we denying the audience that? So develop your eye, and yeah, you know, you be, then your aesthetics and your vision will surely also develop,
Sure.
and then the material that you read will complement that, and
Mm-hmm.
then tell those stories. But I wouldn't compromise on vision for anybody.
I believe so.
No, 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 I
I
don't.
believe so. So, just another question is that, like, when you develop these stories,
Mhm,
do you think of in time before you cast? I mean, when you're casting, actually,
mhm.
do you cast um, according to the story? Because I know some other directors, do you cast according to the story, or do you cast on in terms of or who's going to be giving this story like bigger views, bigger numbers,
Oh no, no.
like because I know some other directors do that. They'll be like, no, I've watched another series at Netflix. I'm like, what was the point of casting that person? When I heard that, it was because of like that's what the studio requested. For the story to have such and such numbers and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a dance. It's a dance you have to play with the studio, with the network, or whoever to say, I have gone through the auditions of the people that I believe might be best suited for
Yes.
this character, and somebody's gonna come up during audition. Someone is gonna come up
Yeah.
that has read that very well, and then they'll become the character. For instance, with Silverton Siege,
Yeah.
you know, Tabo Ramezi had to audition too. He didn't
Already.
just get offered the role. Kalushi obviously auditioned, he got the role.
Yeah.
But yeah. And it was a thing of how do we have if Kalushi if Silverton Siege is going to be played by the same character who was in Kalushi,
Mm.
what do we make him? How do we make him look so that there is consistency with his character,
Yes.
with what he did
Yeah. Yeah.
in as far as Kalushi is concerned, right?
Yes.
And I was saying earlier, it's about curatorship.
Yes.
The danger is in offering a character to an actor and then they don't deliver.
Mm.
Then you're really screwed. So we went through the audition process with him to see him how does he curate
Yes.
the
Yes.
character Calvin in Silverton Siege.
Yes.
Does and then I'll give them notes. I mean, I'm not saying you have to find out on your. I give them notes and I'll have a chat with them.
Yeah.
And it's okay, here, all of them. I don't. It doesn't matter who's auditioning. I'll give them uh, background.
Mm.
I do all the research, and I'll do the research with them. Once they are casted, we'll do a boot camp.
Mm.
We'll spend a lot of time. We'll come to a place like this at a hotel, whatever, and close ourselves out for like a week and
Mm.
just find out who are these characters, what do they want, why do they want that, how do they go about wanting what they want, do they get what they want,
Mm.
and what ultimately happens in the story. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And as
Yes.
far as their arc is concerned,
Yes.
obviously the writing process has informed all of that.
Mm.
But for the actors to embody these characters, you've got to be able to guide and do the work with them,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And again, locally in South Africa, unfortunately, the writing process, the development process is not given enough time,
Yes.
and then you see it on the screen. If something is not developed fully on the screen,
That's
if
true.
something is not developed fully, you're gonna see it on the screen that
That's
they
true.
cut corners.
Yeah. That's true.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
or fortunately, I don't know. you know.
Yeah. So like what's your like when you're developing like a story, like what's your range in terms of
My
time?
process.
Yeah, your process.
Okay, so Kalushi was a stage play first
Mm.
at the South African State Theatre with the artistic director Aubrey Sakhabi there.
Mm.
And then I had having gone to school in Atlanta, Georgia. Tyler Perry's from Atlanta. He's from Georgia, Atlanta, and
Mm.
he used to do a lot of stage plays,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
So I was like, okay, this guy's doing stage plays, and he adapts them to movies. Why can't
Mm.
I do what he's doing? Like
That's
literally, that's what happened.
that's amazing.
So I told, okay, Tyler Perry does that. Okay, Okay,
And
now
that
his
makes,
stories are something else, right? I'm
yeah,
not a
exactly.
big fan of Tyler Perry stories, but as a business person and as somebody who understands, he's a visionary.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm gonna borrow from that visionary
Mm.
and apply that vision to what I
See
do,
what? Yeah.
and hopefully it works.
Yes.
And that's what we did. So Kalushi was a stage play,
Yes.
and then Rivonia Trial was a stage play, and they were very successful.
Mm.
And then Silverton Siege, though not a stage play, after the draft had been written to what I felt was satisfied, the NFVF had was our development partner. They
Mm.
had greenlit it. We went to the market theater and read it on the stage
Mm.
with actors and a live audience. Wanted to see and feel from the audience. Do they
Wow.
feel the emotional
Yeah.
journey of what these characters are going through? They gave us feedback. I didn't like that when he did this. And no, no, no. If you're saying this is a thriller, no, I don't believe this. And then took all those notes,
Yeah.
went back to say, okay, this film is not ready to be made. Applied those notes, right?
Mm.
And then I don't know. I think after that, we still had some like 5 more drafts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I went, I don't even count how many drafts of scripts. It's just a lot of drafts,
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of drafts. I wake up at 2 in the morning, an idea,
You write it
put
down.
it down. When you're running, exercising,
Mm.
and when you're on set, and other, when you're in, it's an organic process that's ever evolving, ever evolving.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that kind of like sums it up, in terms of like seeing all of your, because you do watch some other films, and then you realize that you see some other scenes and some other stuff. You see that this has been overlooked. But watching all your films, your project, there is no scene that you can say has been overlooked. There is no cast member that you can say that it's every single scene, and every single cast member is like intentional for their specific roles or characters. So that's what makes your now on I can tell a Mandla film.
Oh,
I
really?
can tell a Mandla film now, because I
Okay.
know Mandla film is different from a lot of directors in South Africa.
Okay.
It's like different.
Oh,
There
oh.
are directors that does stuff, and you feel like, the script, they were let down by the script, or they were let
Yeah.
down by the actors, they were let down maybe
Yeah.
by locations, or art direction, whatever the situation may be. But
Sure.
looking at your stories and watching, that's why I wanted to have this
Oh,
interview with
thank
you
you.
so much, just to hear, all
Thank
these
you.
things. But
Thank you very
now it
much.
makes sense, hearing from you,
Yeah.
talking from the perspective of being a curator,
Yeah.
not just the director or filmmaker, but the
Yeah.
curator.
Yeah.
So it makes
Yeah.
sense now that you're
Yeah, look, I mean, you've got to respect the audience,
yes,
you're not gonna just. I mean, this comes from my professor who taught us Bill Dill.
yeah,
Like, you gotta respect the audience. You can't expect people to sit there for 2 hours.
yeah,
2 hours is a long time
yeah.
to sit there and watch your work
That's true.
and not give them value. The promise.
Mm,
You must always, you know, what did he used to say? Always under promise and over deliver.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
I love that. So I think that sums it up, because
Yeah.
as I said in the beginning of our conversation, watching when I was watching Kalushi, I didn't even know it was written by you. Like, I knew it was Mandla, but not knowing you.
Yeah.
The first thing that came into my mind was, I would love to sit down with this man and just to hear his mind, just to hear how he thinks, and how when he comes up with his characters, when he comes up with his stories, when he writes his stories, what's happening in his mind. And then watching Silverton Siege, and then I was like, I really have to sit down with
Wow.
Mandla.
Thank you.
So I mean, I think that, everything that you said now, I think it really sums it up, and I believe that as well. Even our viewers as well, they will learn a lot
Sure.
from this. This was not just an episode, but it was an educational.
Well, let's do it again.
Yes.
Because I also would like to impart some some of the stuff that I've learned
Yes.
in very recent years, recent times in particular,
Sure.
with digital, and then melanin African skin tones,
Yes.
melanin Indian skin tones.
Wow.
I would like to talk more about that
Sure.
and how cinematography as a craft, coming from the days of
Yes.
film stock that the likes of Kodak,
Yes.
Fuji, and Agfa used to
That's
manufacture,
that's amazing.
and into digital. Like that
Yeah.
research uh, of filming, of using film stock, and having European Caucasian skin tones as a standard
Mm.
that was used by Kodak, Fuji, and Agfa got transferred or migrated into the digital world.
Mm.
And melanin, Indian, African skin tones
Love this.
do not have standards.
Yeah.
So now we are working on standards. So I'd like to
Let's do that.
maybe let's do part two
Let's do.
where we
I was
talk about
I was about to say that part 2 is.
what is curatorship, right? Let's do it. Let's do part two on that.
Let's do part 2.
right.
That's a done deal.
Okay,
It's a
cool.
deal.
You're
So-
amazing, man. I love your energy.
Thank you so much, Budmanda. I
thank
truly
you.
appreciate it. And even our chats, even our talks before we came, I was so motivated and encouraged by some of the things that you say. We will let you know, guys. Some other conversations that I had with Budmanda, we will let you know because Budmanda is going to be becoming part of us. Part
yeah.
of because it's going to be becoming part of what we're doing. But we will officially announce that like very very soon. As soon as we get everything done, dusted, and everything is fine, and then we will definitely announce. But we're so excited about this episode and excited as well, to have you, as part of what we are doing. But we will talk about that at some other point, some other time. So, Budwam, are there any last words that you would like, to say in terms of whatever, like maybe young directors,
Well, I the last thing, I don't know if it's the last thing. I think the
Yeah.
beginning,
Yes.
I would like to say is never stop developing your eye.
Yeah.
Never stop developing your storytelling techniques.
Yes.
Never stop learning. Never think you know it all.
Yes.
Don't let the ego get in the way because it has the danger of doing that. And just be open to everything, as you're working, and don't be attached to anything, but be open to everything because, your PA, your key grip, your gaffer, your assistant, your
on.
focus puller
Come on.
might just be the one that has the idea of how to make your scene better.
Come on.
So don't let the ego get in the way because it has the danger of getting in your way of being a storyteller. So if you are working with people who are your collaborators, co-collaborators,
Yes.
they are equally invested in helping you to realize your vision
Come on.
as a director, as a cinematographer, as a producer. So don't you make the environment that you're working in to be very cohesive, and harmonious because storytelling is very difficult. And if you want to be able to make sure that there's a very harmonious, cohesive environment of storytelling,
Yes.
you create that tone as a director,
Come
as
on.
a filmmaker. It's up to you. And if you let the ego get in the way, you shut people away who will not be able to help you to realize your vision easily because they just don't know when you're going to lose your cool, your temper. They just don't know.
Exactly.
So it's best just to
Yeah.
let the environment, and it doesn't have to be. Filmmaking is hard as it is.
Yeah.
Don't make it harder on yourself.
That's true.
By being close-minded and just listen. If you have to take a walk away from everybody for 10, 15 minutes just to calm yourself down, to process your ideas, and learn to trust your instincts.
Come on.
That's one thing I want to say to filmmakers. Trust your instincts, and most important, have fun while you're doing this.
I love it. I love what you say that your ego can be on the way. It can be a danger. I was saying that yesterday. Last night to my daughter, saying that learn from if I was like saying to her, if you watch the drug dealers, learn from drug dealers because their egos are the ones that end up taking them down. Their egos and their prides. It's the one that actually ends up taking them down. But without those egos, they would still, So I love what you just said. I really love.
Interesting, yeah.
So, Pudmanda, thank you so much, Budwama. I truly appreciate it. So, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you on part 2 with or Mr. Mandla Kaisa. I'm not sure if you're comfortable with me saying Kaisa.
Mandla Kaisa, yeah, that's my
Okay.
full name.
Okay. See you on the part 2 on Mandla Kaisa Dube, where he will be dwelling in terms of like different kinds of camera. I mean, whatever. What you say again?
Digital melanin cinematography.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That that
DMC. But
I'm looking forward to that as well, because today I've learned a lot, because I'm a commercial director. So hearing from him, it's been amazing. Thank you so much, guys. See you on part 2.